At Nuremberg, we were having a situation when, after the conflict, war criminals on the defeated side have been prosecuted. It was really a novelty that all perpetrators of war crimes could be targeted and could be prosecuted by the International Tribunal. In this respect, I think that it was a major step towards establishment of International Criminal Court, and I think I entirely agree that its legal practice should be elaborated and researched. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Minister Arnott, please.
I will give a very brief comment. Undoubtedly, the contribution given by the ICTY, both in terms of procedural law and the development of criminal law, as well as the scope of prosecution and punishment of perpetrators wherever they are, this contribution is immense. We always speak of the accused and his defense counsel, of the prosecutor on the other side, and all of it happening in a court of law. So let us turn to what is transitional justice, to what is symbolic compensation, and to what will become of those who are still missing, as someone put from the public. So the ICTY legacy is important, but we also have to deal with what comes next. And this warrants a new conference. Somehow we stop when a trial ends, and we will one day the tribunal itself will close down, but the victims will remain, and we have to think of them as well.
President Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just, in answer to Natasha Kandich, say that my very efficient staff have informed me that 10 to 15 persons from Kosovo were in fact invited, but apparently the turnout is low. Now, I had planned originally to keep my closing remarks to the very next session, but it may be more appropriate here. I'd like to say that what I have gathered from this conference is primarily two things. First, the virtue of patience, that one needs to be patient in a setting like that, in a setting like this, if we are to achieve anything. Then with patience comes the facility to listen. We have to listen to the people on the ground. We have to listen to the victims. We have to listen to the NGOs. We have to listen to civil society. The most vital part of this conference for me was what happened yesterday in the comments that we heard from the various victim groups. And I want to say very categorically, let no one regret those comments. Let no one apologize for the divisive character of those comments, because they reflect the reality for those victim groups. It was their suffering, and we make a massive mistake if we ignore victim groups and the reality that their suffering represents for them. We cannot move forward without an appreciation of their suffering. The reconciliation and peace is a process. It is not something that happens overnight. My colleague, Judge Morrison from the United Kingdom, when we were discussing this matter yesterday, mentioned the situation in Northern Ireland, which started with the battle of at the Boyne River centuries ago, and of course the latest phase of that conflict started in 1969, and we're only now beginning to see reconciliation in Northern Ireland. So I don't leave here in despair. I live in hope. And I know that there is goodwill. I know that beneath the divisiveness, there is a sincere attempt to find a solution. 15 years is not a long time to find a solution. And I'm confident that we will find that solution. And I'm very proud of the contribution that my tribunal has made in the past and is continuing to make to finding that solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Well, it's difficult to say anything in the aftermath of those comments, Mr. President. I think we will wrap up. I want to say, and I do this at some risk. First, thank you to all the panelists, and I can assure the audience they have lost 10 pounds per person in sweat, not out of anxiety, but just the bright lights and heat. And thanks to you sitting there where the conditions were climactically not much better. I want to close just by underscoring a few of the last comments for the road forward. I think it's precisely because of the enormous accomplishments that the tribunal has made that its work is so important in understanding and extrapolating from where appropriate, certainly in the Balkans, but beyond the Balkans. And I think we would dishonor or understate the legacy that you and your colleagues have created over the last 15 years not to put your accomplishments as well as the shortcomings in a broader international framework going forward, where lawyers, judges, victims in many different countries are struggling to figure out ways to bring about justice. And my last thought is that indeed, 15 years is not a very long time, and I say that with all the impatience of an NGO activist who frequently resorts to the word urgent in many letters. My thought here is that there may be a bit of mythology that arose around the Nuremberg Tribunal in terms of its effects. I don't think from a closer reading of history that the work of the Nuremberg Tribunal, which we celebrate today, had anything like an instantaneous effect in Germany in helping enable and empower that population with crimes committed in their names. And in fact, as I understand it, it took some time and a new generation using the historical and factual record that Nuremberg created to pose tough questions and demand answers to those tough questions from an older generation. So I think it's important to keep sight, with all the urgency on the one hand of time here in helping move us along with proper policy towards the ends that we all want to see. Thank you very much.